On this day in history, we remember the remarkable individuals who shaped our world. Welcome to Who Died Today in History, where we honor their legacies. From artists to leaders, their impact lives on. If you find their stories meaningful, like, subscribe, and hit the bell to stay connected.
Thank you to all our amazing channel members for your generous support.
Paul Reubens, best known for his eccentric and beloved character Pee-wee Herman, died on July 30, 2023 at the age of 70 after a private battle with cancer. His death, due to natural causes, came as a surprise to fans and colleagues alike, as he had kept his illness secret for years. This quiet, dignified exit contrasted sharply with the loud, colorful persona he crafted throughout his career, one that shaped an entire generation's understanding of children's entertainment, subversive humor, and alternative comedy. Reubens emerged in the late 1970s and 1980s, a time of experimentation in the comedy scene, when punk sensibilities and offbeat performance art were seeping into mainstream media. Pee-wee Herman, with his high-pitched voice, red bow tie, and childlike wonder, became a cultural icon through Pee-wee's Playhouse and Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Yet beneath the quirky exterior was a sharp social commentary on conformity, innocence, and identity. Reubens created a character that was both nostalgic and subversive, appealing to children while winking at adult viewers. His death reignited public appreciation for his artistry, reminding audiences of how he transformed the landscape of television and film comedy. Despite controversies in the early 1990s that briefly derailed his career, Reubens later found redemption through voice acting and supporting roles, gaining renewed respect in Hollywood. The timing and tone of his passing, unannounced, modest, and only acknowledged after his death, reflected his lifelong preference to let his work speak louder than his personal life. Reubens' legacy is a testament to the transformative power of art and the endurance of unique voices in entertainment. His death prompted tributes across platforms, with fans sharing stories of joy, imagination, and inspiration tied to Pee-wee's world. Murals, retrospectives, and streaming revivals of his shows followed, reflecting the deep imprint he left on popular culture. In remembering Paul Reubens, we are reminded that mortality does not diminish originality. Through his character, he carved out a space where absurdity and kindness thrived, an enduring reminder that laughter and creativity are essential tools in how we process life and loss. We immortalize figures like Reubens through the joy they bring, the boundaries they break, and the stories that continue to live on long after the curtain falls. Claudette Colbert, one of Hollywood's most iconic actresses of the Golden Age, passed away on July 30, 1996, at the age of 92. She died of a stroke at her home in Speightstown, Barbados, marking the quiet end of a career that had once lit up cinema screens with glamour, charm, and remarkable wit. Her death, though natural and peaceful, symbolized the fading of a dazzling era of American filmmaking, one built on studio systems, star personas, and a kind of storytelling that celebrated both style and substance. Colbert rose to stardom in the 1930s and 1940s, a time when women in film were often confined to narrow roles. Yet she defied convention with portrayals that blended intelligence, independence, and sensuality. Most famously, she won an Academy Award for It Happened One Night, 1934, a role that helped define the screwball comedy genre and redefine the modern romantic heroine. Her performances often reflected the cultural shifts of her time, from Depression-era escapism to wartime resilience. The immediate reaction to her passing was marked by reverence and reflection, especially among cinephiles and critics who recognized her as one of the last remaining links to the classic age of Hollywood. Though she had largely stepped away from the spotlight in her later years, her legacy was quietly monumental. Her death underscored how the film industry had evolved, from the golden studio system she once dominated to the fast-paced, fragmented entertainment world of the 1990s. Colbert's passing did not radically shift the course of history, but it offered a moment of cultural introspection. As retrospectives celebrated her legacy, they also acknowledged how female stars like her helped shape public ideas of womanhood, romance, and sophistication during a transformative time in American history. She became a symbol of elegance that transcended her roles, proving that an actor's influence can last far beyond their final curtain call. In reflecting on her death, we see how society clings to the memory of its cultural architects, not simply for nostalgia, but to find continuity in an ever-changing world. Claudette Colbert is immortalized not only through her films, but in the art of storytelling itself, where charm meets strength and legacy is measured not just in awards, but in the emotions stirred across generations. Ingmar Bergman, the Swedish filmmaker whose profound and introspective works reshaped the language of cinema, died peacefully in his sleep on July 30, 2007, at the age of 89. He passed away on the remote island of Fårö, where he had spent much of his later life, an isolated, windswept landscape that often mirrored the psychological and spiritual terrain of his films. His death from natural causes was fittingly understated, in contrast to the emotional intensity and existential dread that defined much of his work. Bergman's passing marked the end of an era in global cinema. Emerging in post-war Europe, he gave voice to a generation grappling with questions of faith, guilt, mortality, and the human condition. His films, such as The Seventh Seal, 1957, Persona, 1966, and Fanny and Alexander, 1982, did not offer escapism, but instead forced audiences to confront their deepest fears and desires. In a world growing increasingly commercial and superficial, Bergman stood for artistic integrity and the belief that cinema could be philosophy in motion. The immediate consequence of his death was an outpouring of tributes from filmmakers and artists around the world. Directors like Woody Allen, Martin Scorsese, and Andrei Tarkovsky openly credited Bergman as a guiding light. His influence had stretched far beyond Sweden, shaping auteur cinema and reaffirming the power of film to explore the complexities of the human soul. While his death did not shift the trajectory of political or global history, it did draw a line under a towering legacy, prompting both retrospection and renewed appreciation. Bergman's passing invites reflection on how societies remember those who delve into the darker corners of the psyche. His films rarely offered tidy conclusions or moral clarity, yet they endure precisely because they wrestle with the same anxieties that define human existence: love, death, isolation, and transcendence. In commemorating his life, we also confront the paradox of mortality itself. How someone so attuned to the ephemeral nature of life can leave behind a body of work that feels eternal. Through curated retrospectives, academic study, and continued influence on filmmakers, Bergman remains immortal. His death reminds us that while time may claim the body, the soul of an artist endures, etched not in stone, but in celluloid, dialogue, and the silences that say what words never could. Gloria DeHaven, a vibrant star of Hollywood's golden age, passed away from natural causes on July 30, 2016, at the age of 91. She died in Las Vegas, Nevada, just a few days after her birthday, closing a long chapter of film, music, and stage history that had once enchanted post-war America. Her peaceful passing stood in contrast to the high-energy glamour of her early career, reflecting both the quiet fade of old Hollywood and the broader transition in American entertainment values. DeHaven rose to fame in the 1940s, a time when musicals and Technicolor films offered wartime audiences joy and escapism. With her charisma, beauty, and rich singing voice, she became a staple at MGM, appearing in films such as Summer Holiday and Step Lively. As a daughter of vaudeville performers, she embodied the multi-talented American star, rooted in a tradition that bridged live performance and screen entertainment. Her image reflected the optimism and resilience of a nation emerging from depression and war, while her longevity in show business highlighted the adaptability required of women in a rapidly evolving industry. Her death didn't create shockwaves like those of political figures or tragic celebrities, but it served as a soft closing curtain on an era. For film historians and classic movie fans, it marked the loss of another direct link to a bygone time when the studio system reigned supreme and stars were crafted as carefully as the sets they danced on. In this way, DeHaven's passing became a quiet reminder of the ephemerality of fame and the enduring power of nostalgia. What her death reveals about humanity's relationship with mortality and memory is deeply tied to how we romanticize the past. DeHaven's career, once widely known, now lives largely in archives, classic film channels, and the hearts of niche audiences. Yet through film restoration, retrospective festivals, and the ongoing digital preservation of Hollywood's golden age, her legacy endures. Her songs still play, her films still flicker, and in that continued presence, she achieves a form of immortality. Gloria DeHaven may not have reshaped history, but she enriched the cultural fabric of her time. Her death, while natural and expected, invites reflection on how we preserve joy, artistry, and elegance through memory, and how even the softest departures can echo across generations through the timeless medium of film. Bill Walsh, the legendary American football coach and executive, passed away from leukemia on July 30, 2007, at the age of 75. His death marked the loss of not just a winning coach, but an architect of modern football thinking, a man whose influence reshaped the way the game is played, taught, and understood. Walsh died in Woodside, California, after a long battle with the disease, surrounded by family, far from the roaring stadiums that had defined much of his professional life. Walsh's passing came at a time when the NFL was already undergoing transformation, particularly in how the quarterback position and offensive schemes were approached. Known as the father of the West Coast offense, he introduced a strategic philosophy built not on brute force, but on timing, precision, and intellect. This system, which emphasized short, quick passes and horizontal movement, changed the way offenses operated, placing greater responsibility on quarterbacks to read defenses and make fast decisions. In an era where traditional power football still dominated, Walsh's ideas symbolized a shift toward innovation and adaptability, values that would come to define 21st century football. The immediate response to Walsh's death was an outpouring of respect across the sports world. Tributes from players, coaches, analysts, and fans reflected the breadth of his influence. His protégés, like Mike Holmgren, Andy Reid, and Tony Dungy, continued to shape the league, ensuring that Walsh's vision lived on through a coaching tree whose branches extended deep into the NFL. Walsh's death amplified his legacy, reinforcing his mythic status in the sport. He wasn't just remembered as a three-time Super Bowl champion with the San Francisco 49ers, but as a cerebral leader who valued teaching, character, and human development as much as wins. His passing also sparked deeper conversations about mentorship, race, as he was a strong advocate for minority hiring, and the long-term health of coaches and players alike. Through documentaries, Hall of Fame exhibits, and the ongoing success of coaches he mentored, Bill Walsh remains a towering figure in football history. His story reminds us that innovation, compassion, and vision can transcend even the most competitive arenas. In remembering him, we recognize how deeply legacy is tied not only to victory, but to the courage to lead change, and how death, while inevitable, can crystallize influence into something timeless. Brenda Marshall, a celebrated American actress of the 1930s and 1940s, passed away from natural causes on October 30th, 1992. Her death marked the quiet end of a life that, though not as publicly tumultuous as some of her contemporaries, embodied the golden age of Hollywood and its complex interplay between fame, privacy, and cultural values. Marshall's era was one of both glamour and strict moral codes, where stars were carefully managed by studios, and public images often masked personal struggles. She was known for her roles in films like The Seahawk, 1940, and The Invisible Menace, 1938, where she portrayed strong yet elegant characters that reflected the shifting roles of women on screen during a time when Hollywood was beginning to explore more complex female identities. Her death by natural causes, away from the scandal and spectacle, reflects a period where many actors of the Golden Age quietly receded from the public eye, contrasting sharply with the violent or accidental deaths that have often amplified celebrity legends. The immediate consequence of Marshall's passing was a gentle remembrance among classic film enthusiasts and historians who appreciated her contributions to cinema's formative years. Unlike the public spectacle surrounding the deaths of some of her peers, Brenda Marshall's departure was a quiet closing chapter, highlighting a respect for privacy that defined the era's cultural attitudes toward aging and mortality, especially for women in Hollywood. Her death did not shift the trajectory of film history, nor did it amplify her legend dramatically. Rather, it underscored the transient nature of fame itself. Marshall's legacy endures through the preservation and study of classic films, which continue to influence contemporary portrayals of femininity and resilience. Through art and literature, including film retrospectives and biographies, she is immortalized as a symbol of Hollywood's golden years, a time when glamour and talent intersected with the pressures of societal expectations. Ultimately, Brenda Marshall's death reveals humanity's ongoing negotiation with mortality, fame, and memory. It highlights how some figures become immortalized not through tragic ends, but through the enduring power of their work and the nostalgia it evokes. This balance between public legacy and private life continues to shape how we remember cultural icons, honoring them both as individuals and as contributors to the evolving story of art and society. Nichelle Nichols, the trailblazing actress best known for her role as Lieutenant Uhura on Star Trek, died of natural causes in July 2022. Her passing marked the end of a life that transcended entertainment, reflecting and challenging the social values of her era. Nichols' death symbolized the closing of a chapter in American history where issues of race, representation, and equality were fiercely contested yet gradually transformed. Nichols emerged during the 1960s, a period fraught with racial tension and the civil rights movement, where African Americans were pushing back against segregation and limited opportunities. Her casting as a competent, intelligent, and commanding officer on a primetime TV show was revolutionary. At a time when roles for black actors were often stereotypical or marginal, Nichols portrayed a strong black woman with dignity, subtly advancing the era's evolving values around race and gender. Her death by natural causes came after a lifetime that witnessed both the struggles and achievements of Black Americans in Hollywood and beyond. The immediate aftermath of Nichols's passing was a wave of tributes from fans, colleagues, and civil rights leaders, underscoring her profound cultural impact. Unlike deaths that shock or scandalize, Nichols's departure was met with respectful reflection on her legacy. She had already secured her place in history as a pioneer who helped broaden the scope of representation in media, inspiring generations of actors, activists, and fans. Her death did not abruptly shift history, but amplified her legend, highlighting the ongoing importance of visibility and inclusion in popular culture. Nichols's story, is reminiscent of the political intrigue in Cleopatra's life, where power, identity, and representation intertwine. Though not a monarch, Nichols wielded cultural influence that challenged societal norms. Her death prompts reflection on humanity's relationship with mortality, how we honor those who helped shape the narratives of power and inclusion. Through art, media, biographies, and commemorations such as public honors and dedicated events, Nichols is immortalized not only as a performer, but as a symbol of progress. Her legacy exemplifies how we remember figures who break barriers, not solely through the circumstances of their death, but through the enduring resonance of their life's work, serving as a beacon for future generations seeking equity, dignity, and recognition. Otto von Bismarck, the towering figure of 19th century European politics, died of natural causes on July 30, 1898, at the age of 83. His death marked the end of an era defined by realpolitik, statecraft, and the consolidation of German unification. Bismarck's life and death reflected the immense challenges and shifting values of his time, a period marked by nationalism, imperial ambition, and the complex balancing act of European power politics. Bismarck's death came more than a decade after his forced resignation by Kaiser Wilhelm II, a transition that symbolized the shifting tides in German and European politics. As the Iron Chancellor, Bismarck had engineered the unification of Germany through deft diplomacy, wars against Denmark, Austria, and France, and a carefully crafted system of alliances aimed at preserving peace and German dominance. His approach reflected 19th century values of pragmatism, authority, and a belief in the strong state as the central actor in history. The immediate consequences of Bismarck's passing were subtle but significant. While no longer in power, his ideas and political architecture shaped German and European politics long after his death, setting the stage for both the stability and tensions that culminated in World War I. His passing was mourned as the loss of a national architect, but also symbolized the waning influence of his cautious diplomacy, as Wilhelm II's more aggressive policies destabilized the continent. Bismarck's death thus did not abruptly shift history, but underscored a pivotal moment when traditional statecraft gave way to new, often more volatile forces. Bismarck's death, like Cleopatra's dramatic suicide or Joan of Arc's public execution, reveals humanity's deep engagement with mortality and power. His life and death remind us that political power is both fragile and enduring, and that memory is shaped by the narratives we construct around leadership and nationhood. We immortalize Bismarck through statues, biographies, and scholarly works that debate his legacy, both as a unifier and a cautious autocrat. Ultimately, Bismarck's death teaches us how history memorializes complex figures, balancing their contributions with the consequences of their choices. His legacy persists as a testament to the enduring struggle between order and upheaval, power and memory, illustrating how the past continues to echo through the corridors of time. Nan Leslie, an American actress known primarily for her work in Western films and television during the mid-20th century, passed away from natural causes on 2000. While her death did not trigger the political or social upheavals that often accompany the passing of historical or political icons, it offers a poignant reflection on the era she represented and the evolving values of the entertainment industry. Leslie's death marked the quiet end of a career that spanned the golden age of Hollywood westerns, a genre that both celebrated and mythologized the American frontier. Her roles often embodied the era's values of rugged individualism, moral clarity, and the idealized vision of American identity. As the Western genre faded from prominence by the late 20th century, so too did the public's direct connection to the cultural narratives Leslie helped portray. The immediate consequences of her passing were felt most acutely by fans and colleagues who remembered her as a familiar and dependable presence in classic Western storytelling. Unlike the dramatic public spectacles that surrounded the deaths of figures like Cleopatra or Joan of Arc, Leslie's death was a quieter farewell, emblematic of many entertainers whose contributions, while significant, were woven into the fabric of popular culture rather than political history. Her passing highlights broader cultural transitions, from the heroic ideals of mid-century America to more complex, nuanced narratives about identity and history. Leslie's career and death serve as reminders of how entertainment both shapes and reflects societal values. While she may not have altered the course of history, her roles contributed to the collective memory of an era and the mythology of the American West. We immortalize figures like Nan Leslie through film archives, retrospectives, and fan communities that keep alive the stories and styles of their time. Through art and literature, as well as preservation efforts, such performers continue to resonate as cultural touchstones. Their memories remind us how mortality intersects with cultural legacy, how even seemingly quiet departures echo within the evolving story of human experience, power, and memory. And